I am playing No Man's Sky on my No Man's Sky computer, which is this little tiny thing. You're actually going to review the new one.
Yeah, which has 4K, HDR, all that good stuff.
I just turned it off. Don't touch it.
I forgot it had the touch capacitive buttons
Oh,
there.
man, I got to relaunch my game now. I keep dying in this game.
That's how good this is.
This sits in my home theater setup. It's the NVIDIA Shield. It's an Android TV device.
/ gaming console.
Well, and that's what's interesting about it, because I play No Man's Sky on this because it has GeForce Now, which is a streaming gaming solution.
Where when I play No Man's Sky, I'm playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro.
That's how it first came out, right?
Yeah.
And you said it looks pretty similar to your PlayStation.
Yeah, actually, I've been surprised watching you play through this here. There's not really any dropped frames, not a lot of lag. I'm pretty impressed.
Well, obviously, you can do a lot better, because on the line with us right now, Blake Patterson, who co-founded Touch Arcade way back when, and with Arnold Kim of Mac Rumors. TouchArcade.com was a great gaming site. Was that 1998? Has it been that long?
98, yeah. It's been, I guess, 9 years. 9 years now.
Cow.
So,
well, welcome.
That was the year the App Store went live. So
you're no punter when it comes to gaming. I mean, you're pretty serious about gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I started probably with my first console back in about 1980. I got the Atari VCS, and since then I've been really, and then I got a TI home computer after that, and then it went from there. But I never stopped gaming, and it was obviously the interest in gaming is what pushed me to take Arnold up on his offer to go in together with an iOS gaming site. And as you can see from the, I think the photo that just showed, I've got a collection of, I'm a big retro computing fan, so
That's your house? I thought it was a museum.
No, goals right there.
I thought this was like the tech museum in San Jose. That's your house?
I love it.
Yeah, that's my 10-year-old daughter. She's afraid she's going to get caught in the cable.
You have a family?
I do have a family. It's amazing.
Yeah, your wife lets you do
this is the best man cave I ever saw in my life.
Thanks, Leo. The thing about the retro computers down there, though, is they're all set up and functional. I don't see much value in collecting and then shelving just to have. They all work. But the thing is, they're not that expensive. I mean, most of them you can get. These come from eBay, and a system unit. It might be like $40 or
what is that
something
you're
like
playing Joust on there?
Let's see. Joust is that's a Atari 520 ST.
The ST. Yeah. So you have a Joust cartridge in there. Wow.
No, it's actually floppy based.
Oh, it's floppy.
Oh, okay. It's amazing how. It's just a good reminder of how big computers used to be.
So this puts it all in context then when we say that you like No Man's Sky so much that you actually built a dedicated $4,000 PC to play it.
Well, I should clarify the hardware, combination of hardware, and as I went through it, I ended up purchasing a few different displays because I started out on the PS4. But the hardware side of it is a little over $3,000, and then the rest is there's actually the
memorabilia.
Included the memorabilia. I grabbed some and brought it here by the
what do you
webcam.
got?
For instance, there's the 65 Days of Static did a record LP version of the soundtrack, and there's the nice little die-cast model of the ship, which is part of this Explorers Edition version of the game. I
feel like such a punter because I'm playing this on a $150 TV set, basically.
I was giving myself credit for streaming the soundtrack on Apple Music. This guy has it on vinyl.
Now, both Nathan and I have the same complaint as I think a lot of people do with No Man's Sky. It just seems to be a lot of No Man's Sky was a highly hyped title.
Yes.
The thing that was most interesting about it was you're in a universe of billions of computer-generated planets, each unique with a unique flora and fauna. I'm wandering right now on the moon. In fact, you can see if I look up somewhere. Yeah, there's the planet that's behind the moon. I mean, it's a breathtakingly beautiful game, but you spend a lot of time. See, there's the planet. I was just on that planet, and I decided to fly to the moon. But you spend a lot of time wandering around on this game.
It gets a bit repetitive. It's a bit of a grind. It's a gorgeous game, but you're pretty much alone in the universe, aside from, I guess, the animals and creatures you run into. But what are we missing?
A few aliens.
What are we missing? Because online, on Twitter and things like this, you've kind of turned into an evangelist for the game of sorts, and clearly there's something that you're getting that we might not be.
Yeah. What is it? What's the story?
I think, and part of it, maybe for me, my particular situation is that I started gaming so long ago. There are games that try to simulate, space scenarios and like, for instance, Elite was one of the early space trading games, and now that's of course been redone as Elite Dangerous. And there's other planets, other games. One in particular, I made a video about. It's Lucasfilm before it was called LucasArts. Actually created a game called Rescue on Fractalus, and that was a extremely primitive game where you were flying. Well, there, I think you're seeing it on the screen, where it was. Simulating a planetscape with just a handful of lines on a screen, but it gave you the feeling that you were flying around a planet, and this was technology from 1984, 1983, crude, but it felt like a planet. And I used to spend hours flying around that and, shooting the aliens and rescuing the downed pilots.
So you like this genre, and this is so much better than that, right? I mean, this is fully realized, in that
What I like about the Fractalus game is that, the world is mathematically generated, and it's endless. There's no stop. It's exactly the same with No Man's Sky. All of every feature, every rock, every mountain, all the water, it's all mathematically generated. Each planet has a formula that renders it, and whoever were to land on that planet would see the same exact features in the exact same places. And given that it's a mathematical situation, there's basically a limitless number of variations that can happen. And so to me, it makes these worlds feel very real. I mean, they're mathematically real. And so walking around them, flying around them, exploring them, and there are different types of, the environments, the caves, the different flora and fauna, it feels very, while it feels very much a situation of solitude, it does, it feels like around the next corner, you don't know what you're going to discover. And that's a exciting feeling for me. And definitely, I think people that were disliking the game because they had believed it would be much more of a, online MMO type game, obviously are not, into the whole solitude thing. I'll speak to that. When I first heard of the game, a little over a year after it launched, what I took in from, the trailers and what I heard from, Hello Games interviewing, I didn't get the impression that there was going to be people like actual MMO type players.
That was the reason I think people were initially upset, was that they kind of thought this was a MMO, a massively multiplayer online game.
Yeah.
And I guess it may even be, but it's such a giant universe, you don't run into people.
Yeah, well, I think, there was a particular conversation sometime before the release where it was indicated that, the two people could be in the same place, but the universe is so vast that it would basically never happen. And then there was mention of, multiple person interactions being handled by way of some sort of a lobby. And I think really that's what they've effectively implemented or begun to implement with the recent updates. And there have been two major updates to the game since it launched that brought a lot of new features. They brought, the ability to leave messages and labels in different planets that other people can find.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think that may go towards the lobby situation, but there are interviews where, the developers were saying, look, if you want to play, a big action MMO, go play Destiny. That's not what this is. And so I never really was misled, I guess, as people or other people seem to have been.
You're happy just to wander around on these planets and
in solitude.
In solitude, looking for. I mean, we're looking at some YouTube video, which makes it much more interesting than it really is. Because mostly what I do is I've been wandering planets for weeks. Like, okay, here's an example. It says radio signal detected. Find source of life signs. It's 22 minutes of walking this way, and so that means for the next 22 minutes in real time of this game, I'm going to be walking towards this thing, and not much will happen between now and then.
Well, I think for situations like that, to talk specifically about what you're mentioning
Should I be doing this?
I would jump in the ship and fly over there.
Oh.
It would take about...
Well, my ship's all like
seconds.
half an hour away that way. I've been walking so long.
Yeah, I mean that's part of right. You get out into the middle of nowhere, right? Which is closer, that kind of thing.
And I'm supposed to collect resources and build things. There's a lot of. It feels like World of Warcraft, but without any NPCs. Oh, a knowledge stone. What's that? Should I interact with that? Let's see.
Yes, you should.
Sure, you.
I've learned
part
the
of the
Gek
game-
word for destroy. Now, is that going to help me in any way?
Well, part of the game involves interacting with
Aliens.
the AI-based aliens, and
Yeah.
when you have conversations with them, they say a little spiel, and it's entirely foreign in language.
Right.
But the more and more words you collect, then parts of those sentences that they say end up being English words. So
Right.
you can better understand where they're coming from, which is, it's a little angle on the interaction and trading, but it doesn't make a huge difference, I have to say.
Well, it sounds like you're the perfect fan for this game. You understand, where the developers are coming from. You have a nostalgic tie to this genre. But take me through your process in actually getting to that point where you built
something
the
just hit
ultimate
me.
No Man's Sky setup. Because you started out playing just on a PlayStation 4 like I
Sure.
am, right?
Yeah, it's I was glad, by the way, to see I'll say up front that there's a huge PS4 Pro utilization with that new update that landed about 10 days
good,
ago. So that's
good.
nice to see. That's nice
Good.
to see. But yeah, I started playing on launch day with my PlayStation 4, and I fell in love with the game right away. I was playing on the entertainment center on the couch.
Yep,
And
that's
then
what I've been doing. Yep.
After a few weeks, I wanted to, have it feel more like a, sit down simulation where I could get, more engaged. And so I wanted to play it on a desk.
You wanted to be a little bit more
I-
immersed in the world.
Yeah,
When this
so
came
I
out,
think-
I thought this would be the ultimate VR game. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't go in that direction, frankly.
I think I would imagine that VR is coming for it, given the two updates that have come that have been equally spaced since the release. Have been pretty feature rich, and I've got to think that they're going to bring VR to it. But I
Because
guess
then it would be,
we'll see.
then at least you're in the environment, and you can look
Sure.
around. Because a lot of this is how pretty it is, and
Right.
you're kind of the space that you're in and all of that. Here I am in a cave. I'm coming out of the cave.
So what did moving to the desk do for you? Did that make it really much more immersive?
Yeah, I picked up a curved 32-inch screen, which added the curve.
Those
adding
are
a little
lovely.
immersion.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
those.
it really makes a nice. It adds a little depth, certainly.
Yeah.
And so I was playing it on the desk like that, and it was a dramatic improvement. It was much more. It felt much more immersive in that configuration versus across the room. But I was still, this was still PS4. I brought the PS4 down onto the table, and I was playing like that. And then I started, thinking, well, I'm enjoying it so much, and it's so visual. Here, this is 30 frames a second. With PC hardware, I could put together a system that could play at 60 frames a second or faster. I could take advantage of mods. There's a big modding community out there that allows a lot of variations on what happens, and also you can edit the settings files on the PC version, so you could do certain things like change the field of view, just little things that make the experience a little better on the PC by nature of it being file based. So after 2 more weeks or so on the desk with the PS4, I decided to go ahead and it's been 18 years since I built a PC. I used to build them a lot, but now I've been on the Mac all this time. So I figured out what is what out there, and then put together a list, ordered the parts, built it, and it's really been it's been a great jump. I mean, 60 frames a second in the game, being able to tweak the configs. I've not actually gone down the mod road, even though that was part of my initial reasoning, because while it kind of changes things up a bit, it's sort of an experience different than the core game experience. And for now, I just kind of want to stay on the path that that the developers have envisioned. And
How
so
many
who knows,
hours a day do you play No Man's Sky?
Well, I mean, early on, it was quite a few. I mean, I would, put an hour in the morning before work, or then after, my daughter, wife go to bed, I'd come down and play a little bit more. I've played a total of, I looked at my Steam profile. It's about 450 hours so far since early August, and
I don't think I've ever
that's
put
a lot of.
And how many planets have you named or discovered?
I haven't named them all yet, but I did count for one of the articles I wrote, and I think now it's probably I've landed on probably 550 planets maybe.
Okay. Wow.
something like that.
So you're very aggressive in exploring the planets. What's your advice to somebody who wants to enjoy this game more and get the most out of it?
Well, I think, there's a big range of, environment types, and some are more interesting than others. Some are very bare and they can be somewhat bland, but then there's other ones that the same bare type of planet will have an eerie atmospheric effect that makes it pleasant to walk around, or you might want to, rather walk around a jungle planet. So I would not spend a lot of time on planets that weren't, particularly interesting. I would pretty quickly move on to the next one. And, I think just seeing what's out there one after the other.
Explore.
Has kept it nice and varied. And, I think earlier, before the show actually began, we were talking about, tips on, how to build up your character. I think, one of the early things I did was sort of grab a bit of everything from the environment, mining elements, then take it, sell it, and see what I figured out early on what was more valuable.
Yes.
And then I started to, go after those, and this was in an effort to acquire a ship. And then I learned that you can actually just basically fly around the surface of a planet if you've got some time. Like in an hour, you can probably find a couple of crashed ships and pick them up without having to pay. So that's another aspect.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
Should you feed the animals?
If you feed the animals, they get smiley facey, but they also
see that he just hit me. Should I kill the animal?
You can kill the animals if you want. It's depends on how well you're going to sleep at night.
First.
But if you
keeps
feed
butting
them,
me.
they'll leave a air element on the ground.
You're gonna
which
die.
is actually
Get out of
poop.
here. Get
So
out
if
of
I can
here.
say that.
So at what point did you realize how much you had spent on this whole ultimate setup, or was that part of the plan the whole time, or was it kind of a slippery slope?
It wasn't part of the plan. I think. I knew that I was going to spend a couple of $1,000s, and when I started off, I guess I didn't realize I was going to purchase various screens to up the resolution and that kind of thing. And
it's not wasted though, because you could play any game on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
You can, and that's the reason that, and this is something I underscored, I think, in my original write of the piece that you saw at Polygon. I mentioned the price that I paid, not as a way to say, oh look, I can spend, I've got all this cash to spend, it's great.
You're not showing off.
Trying to point out that, like, if a guy can enjoy this game to such a degree that he'd spend that money, maybe, there's something to it beyond what, all this vitriol that flies around the web from even people that have never played it. So I was just trying to kind of use that as an underscoring, tool.
And how's the feedback been for you for that? Are people saying, no, actually the game sucks? Or people saying, hey, you're right, I'm seeing it from a different perspective?
Actually, comments that I see on on website comment trails are surprisingly positive. People are I'm not liking the game, or I don't it doesn't seem great to me, but go after what you like, and that's nice. But there's some subreddits, in one particular on Reddit, and it's known to be pretty churny, and especially early on. And I've definitely gotten some
haters.
Some haters, from there. And
do you think you're done? Are you going to spend more? Where can you go from here?
I'm telling you, VR, baby. I
think Leo mentioned it with VR. Yeah. I mean, if eventually I would have to go VR. And when I built the system, I knew that I was wanting it to be VR capable at some point, thinking that this would that it would be available in VR. And and another thing I wanted to mention though. Going back to the fact that I was, highlighting the fact that it was 4,000 spent on No Man's Sky, is, to clarify that, all I use the machine for basically is No Man's Sky. I'm not a Windows guy. I have a Mac sitting next to it on the desk that I use for everything other than gaming. And I've installed a few other games on the system, but I've probably maybe 15 hours that I've spent outside of No Man's Sky on the PC. So that's why I feel it's not, incorrect to say that this was spent on No Man's Sky.
You're not doing Excel spreadsheets or. You're actually for a living. You do web design, right? Full stack web development.
Yeah, front end, back end web development. And I use my machine of preference for that, which also is a Mac. I like the Unix command line tools for that. So.
Well, I'm going to get back into No Man's Sky, man. I'm going to, and it sounds like the base advice is explore as much as possible, get around and see other things. I've spent way too long on this moon.
I think, I think definitely if I'll land on a planet, and if it doesn't look like, something that's going to, give me an hour of interesting exploration, I'll just pick up and go to the next one. I will say that one thing that isn't obvious, but after you play a while, you pick it up. The moons in the planet, some of in the systems, there are planets, and then there are moons around some of the planets. The moons seem to be dramatically more visually
I'm
stunning.
on a moon right now, and I much prefer it to that horrible planet that it's
so the phrase is never skip the moons, always skip the moons.
Don't skip the moons.
Don't skip the moons. But
words to live by, truly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Blake, it's a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for. I'm sorry you take so much guff for your love of No Man's Sky. Every man should have
quite all right.
Have the right to pursue his happiness in any way, however boring. You could be collecting bottle caps. I mean,
I have enough other things going on in life that I'm able to soldier on despite
despite the disapproval of Reddit, huh?
It's somehow I've managed.
That's awesome.
Great to talk to you, Blake Patterson. And the website is. Do you want to plug that website?
Sure. My
Byteseller?
personal blog, byteseller.com is my typically a retro computing blog. If I'm not blogging about No Man's Sky. About the only thing I write about that's not to do with retro computing, but byteseller.com, and I'm Blake Spot on Twitter. So if anyone wants to send some hate my way, I'm right here.
I'm really glad we got you on because we couldn't get a hold of you, and now I realize it's because you were playing No Man's Sky.
Makes sense.
Well, that's
you were busy.
Problem. It is one of the problems.
Blake, it's great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And, you going to play a little more?
Definitely. I mean, that's aspirational goals right there. I mean, like the level of dedication and the know-how and wherewithal to build that out. I mean, it's really impressive. It looks like a lot of fun. So, yeah, I'm going to give it another shot.
And honestly, you can play it on the PlayStation 4. If you don't already have one, maybe you could get an NVIDIA Shield. You're going to be reviewing these. I think this is one of my favorite new set-top boxes.
Yeah, and this is about half the price of the PS4 Pro that I got.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm playing it through GeForce Now, which is NVIDIA's streaming gaming service. And as you can see, it's very playable.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I've only ever really kind of tooled around with GeForce Now and never spent a ton of time with it, but that was a while ago, and it wasn't that great back then. And PlayStation Now also has been kind of hit or miss.
You need a lot of I mean, it
looks like it's gotten a lot better.
We're on a very fast gigabit connection.
Well, there's that too.
But at home, I'm only about 100 megabits, and it plays just as smoothly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what the frame rate is or what the resolution is. It's probably only 1080p, but it looks great. I think it looks fine.
Looks damn good.
Yeah. And it's certainly playable. So, I'm happy.